He told me to stop writing him. But how do you stop writing the man who lives inside your mind and whom you've accidentally fallen in love with? I used to think my biggest problem was writer's block. Turns out it was reality block. The line between fiction and truth blurred the moment I started seeing him. Nathan. He was everything I wasn't. Confident, magnetic, untouchably calm. My therapist said he was just a projection, my alternate self manifesting through stress. But when he touched my hand that night, I swear I felt his heartbeat. New York never sleeps, and neither did my thoughts. I lived in a small, dim apartment filled with half-finished drafts and coffee cups that smelled like insomnia. My latest book, Mirrors of the Mind, was supposed to be my comeback. Instead, it became my confession. Because Nathan was no longer a character. He was alive in the spaces between my sentences. Every night, I'd see him by the window, his silhouette sharp against the neon haze. We'd talk or argue mostly about life, about art, about who really owned this body we shared. Sometimes he'd laugh and say, "You made me too perfect. No wonder you hate yourself." Other times, he'd sit beside me in silence, his presence enough to make my chest ache. Dr. Avery, my psychiatrist, said this was a coping mechanism, dissociative identity disorder, triggered by emotional trauma. But the word disorder felt wrong. Nathan wasn't a disorder. He was love, shaped out of loneliness. I remember the first night I kissed him. It wasn't romantic, it was desperate, like trying to hold onto a dream that was slipping away. His lips were warm, soft, familiar in a terrifying way. He didn't pull back, didn't laugh, just looked at me with that quiet, knowing gaze. "You're not crazy," he whispered. "You're just finally seeing yourself." After that, we stopped pretending. We went places together in my head, maybe, but real to me. Walks through Central Park, where the winter air bit at our fingers and Nathan's laughter echoed between the trees. Late-night subway rides, where I'd lean my head on his shoulder as if he were flesh and bone. The city became our secret stage, a place where two halves of one soul could pretend to be whole. But love built on illusion never lasts. Dr. Avery warned me. She said that to heal, I had to integrate, to reconcile Nathan into my consciousness. Translation: I had to let him die. At first, I refused. How could I erase someone who made me feel alive? But the therapy intensified. The line between us started flickering. I'd wake up and find the words Nathan wrote on my typewriter, things I didn't remember typing. "You're getting better," he wrote one night. "That means I'm fading." I tore the page apart. I wasn't ready to lose him. Then came the night of the storm. Lightning cracked over Manhattan, rain hammering the windows like a relentless drum. I sat at my desk, shaking, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. Nathan stood behind me, his reflection clear in the glass, the same eyes, the same face, the same pain. "You have to finish it," he said softly. "The story," I whispered. "Or you." "Both." Tears blurred my vision. I could barely see the words as I typed, but I kept going, every sentence a wound, every word a goodbye. When I wrote the final line, he smiled as he disappeared. Nathan placed his hand over mine. His touch was fading, his outline flickering like static. "Thank you," he said, "for loving me when you couldn't love yourself." And then he was gone. The next morning, the city looked the same, but I wasn't. The silence in my apartment was deafening. For the first time in years, my head was empty, no voice, no echo, just me. But when I looked at my manuscript, I found one last line I hadn't written. "I'll always be part of you." That was 3 months ago. The book became a success. Critics called it hauntingly beautiful and psychologically profound. They said it blurred the boundary between self and identity. They didn't know it blurred the boundary between life and loss. Sometimes, when I walk past a cafe window, I swear I see him sitting there, smirking, a coffee in hand, waiting for me. I tell myself it's just a reflection. But some nights, when I can't sleep, I still whisper into the dark, "Good night, Nathan." And I almost hear him whisper back, "Good night, Eli." 3 months passed. The silence had become a friend, or at least something I could live with. The world moved on, and so did I, in a way. Mirrors of the Mind became more than a bestseller. It became my redemption. People wrote letters readers who said my story helped them face their own fractured selves. Some confessed that they'd loved someone who only existed in dreams. Others said they envied me because at least my love had words. But they didn't understand the emptiness that followed healing. They didn't understand what it meant to love a part of yourself that no longer answers when you call. Therapy ended. Dr. Avery said I had made progress, integration successful. She called it. I smiled, thanked her, and walked out into the city sunlight that felt too bright. But deep inside, I wondered if I was whole again. Why did I feel so hollow? I started writing again. Not fiction this time, just letters. Letters to Nathan. I'd sit by the window, pen scratching across paper, writing things like, I hope wherever you are, you're not lonely. Or, I still make too much coffee in the morning. Half for you. Of course, there was no address to send them to. I'd burn them in an ashtray, watch the smoke curl toward the ceiling, pretending it might reach him somehow. Pretending he still existed not as a symptom, but as a memory that refused to fade. Then, one gray Sunday, I found his voice again. It happened at a book signing. The lines stretched through the small bookstore, people holding copies of Mirrors of the Mind, smiling shyly, asking questions I'd answered 100 times. I was tired, half listening, half drifting until a young man stepped forward. He looked at me with eyes too familiar. Same green flecks, same quiet confidence, same smile that used to undo me. He handed me a copy of my book, open to the first page. You wrote this for him, didn't you? He asked softly. My pen froze midair. What did you say? He smiled faintly. Nathan. My heart stuttered. He couldn't know. No one could. You must be mistaken, I managed to say, forcing a laugh. Nathan's just a character. Maybe, he said, but sometimes characters become real when we need them most. He left before I could ask his name. When I looked down, I saw he'd written something in my book, just below my signature. I'll always be part of you. The same words Nathan had written the night he vanished. I dropped the pen. My pulse thundered in my ears. That night I couldn't sleep. My apartment felt alive, the air thick with déjà vu. I poured 2 cups of coffee out of habit. The second one sat untouched, steam rising like a ghost. I turned toward the window, and there he was. Nathan stood outside, across the street, under the flickering street lamp. Same leather jacket, same calm gaze. He smiled, not sad this time, but peaceful. I blinked, and he was gone. I laughed, or maybe I cried. It's hard to tell the difference anymore. The next day, I told Dr. Avery about it. She nodded thoughtfully. You're not relapsing, Eli, she said. It's your mind's way of saying goodbye in its own language. Love never disappears. It just changes form. Her words stayed with me. That night, I sat at my desk again and began a new story. Not about a broken mind or a vanishing lover, but about rebirth, about 2 souls who learned that love doesn't need to exist in the flesh to be real. The story started like this. Once upon a time, there was a boy who loved a ghost that lived inside his heart. And when the ghost left, he realized he had never been haunted, he had been blessed. Days turned into weeks. The ache softened. The world, somehow, became more beautiful. I noticed the way sunlight fell through curtains, the sound of laughter in coffee shops, the warmth of strangers' smiles. For the first time, I wasn't writing to escape. I was writing to live. One evening, I took a walk across the Brooklyn Bridge. The sky burned gold, the wind carrying that electric scent of the river. Couples passed by laughing, holding hands, promising things they couldn't know. I leaned on the railing, closed my eyes, and whispered into the wind, "Thank you, Nathan, for teaching me how to love myself." When I opened them, I almost thought I saw him beside me again, barefoot, laughing, his reflection shimmering on the water below. But I didn't reach out this time. I didn't need to. He was inside me now, not as a shadow, but as a quiet strength that whispered, "You made it." Months later, my second book released Letters to the Self I Loved. It wasn't about mental illness or ghosts. It was about the human heart, how it breaks, mends, and learns to forgive itself. The final chapter read, "We are all made of fragments. And sometimes the most beautiful love stories are the ones we have with ourselves." During an interview, a journalist asked me, "Do you still believe Nathan was real?" I smiled. "Yes, just not in the way people think. Because love doesn't have to make sense. It doesn't have to follow rules or exist in one dimension of the mind. It just has to be felt. And what Nathan and I had, it was real enough to change me." The night after that interview, I walked home through the quiet city streets. The first snow of the year was falling, dusting my hair, the pavement, the rooftops. The world felt gentle, like it was forgiving me for all the times I'd hated myself. When I reached my building, I saw my reflection in the lobby glass. For a split second, I thought I saw two of me, one smiling back, his eyes filled with love. Then the reflection merged. One person. Oh, I laughed, a small, trembling sound that echoed softly in the empty hallway. And in that moment, I realized something profound. Healing doesn't mean forgetting who you were. It means finally loving every part of yourself, even the ones that broke you. I looked at my reflection one last time and whispered, "Good night, Nathan." This time, there was no voice whispering back. Just peace. Just me. And that somehow was enough. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.